see the sheet that he gave us. Read that.
This is like the Ellen show. You say something we don't like, push a button and you go through a trap door. And then you work. Whenever you're ready, Mayor.
I'd like to call the budget work session back into order at this time, and Chief, we're ready to hear from you. Any questions concerning the fire budget?
Chief,
Yes, sir.
In the items, one of the items that the fire department is requesting, the fire mobile radios, the 7 radios. We're talking about the radios that are stationary in the trucks themselves,
We're talking about the handheld radios.
handhelds. We're talking about portables.
Right.
Okay, all right, okay. I was a little bit confused because at the top it says portable radios for the police department, and down here in mobile radios, I figured they wanted portables and mobiles, but in your department it said mobiles. I said, wait a minute.
Can I explain why? The reason.
I think I know, but go ahead.
Ladder truck, you have 6 seats. You're supposed to have a radio, handheld radio for each seat.
Gotcha.
So that's the reason why we put that in there. So if you look at, our budget is extremely conservative because that's just my type of nature person. There's a lot of things. Most of the increases you'll see in my budget, strictly with that ladder truck. There's one in there for $5,000 increase. That is because we have to do a ladder test on the big ladder for the ladder truck, which is $1,500. But you also, the other 6 ladders that are on the fire truck, they have to be tested every year. So I had to increase the budget to cover those increases also.
You said the added cost to the ladder truck in general. Is there
With
some,
your maintenance and everything is about $10,000.
Yeah.
About around $10,000.
Have we got it ready for service yet?
The only thing we're waiting on is the air packs, and Sam could explain how we're gonna do the air packs. Kerry was gonna give us air packs. The problem was the air packs were going out. The air packs would have been no good to us. All they would have done is been on the truck, and I would have had to replace them anyway.
Right.
So we've got the air packs on the truck. But I think what we're gonna do with that is the capital reserve, fund balance with the county, is take that money to purchase the air packs because of how much those air packs cost. And there was roughly $59,000 left in that account after we put the carport in out there. So that's what we had talked about doing with that.
how much are those, Chief?
And the air pack, about $8,000 a piece.
Yep.
That's not included in here right now?
It's not right now.
Okay.
So what I've requested already from county,
County, okay.
and I've spoken with Donna Wood, she said that would be fine, most likely, and so once we receive that revenue.
Okay. Perfect.
But push come to shove, we could roll it if we have to.
Oh, yes, sir, we could. The only problem is we don't have the air packs for the people in the trucks.
Right.
That's the only thing holding it from going in services right now.
So it is called ladder 14?
It's ladder 14, yes, sir. And can I touch on the question y'all had earlier this morning?
Go ahead.
When you were in referencing to the 3-cent fire tax increase, I watched the meeting, just like I watch every meeting we do. I watched that 9 hours of video that the county did. I watched it at night. When they got to the fire service and states started asking questions, with me being the president of the Nashville County Fire Association, I've known Robbie Davis probably 40 years. So I called Robbie, I said, let me answer the questions reference to the fire questions y'all had reference to the county. I talked with Robbie, I said, when you look at our stuff, we're doing this fire tax increase because I need that second station because we have other places in the county in this fire district that we need to cover better. And Robbie had a question. He said, Chris, he said, we've never not told a fire district that they couldn't have an increase because Castella's asked for one and so has Salem. They've asked for top fire tax. Last year, Westmount asked for it. They went to maximum tax on theirs because they added personnel on also. So I talked to Robbie and I answered questions for him that he had reference to that. And I also told him that we were going to ask for our fund balance money. He said, well, that's all money anyway. And so I had a long conversation with him. So I'm not saying this, I really feel it's going to pass because I've never been in the fire department 34 years, been a fire chief for over 20 now, as a Cooper's and here, and I've never seen them not raise a fire tax. And I don't think I'm wrong on that saying that. But I did talk with Robbie because I felt that he had questions reference to fire service and I answered the questions for him. So he could go back to the county commissioners and answer their questions. So I also offered as the president of the association, if they had questions, I'd go speak to them, reference for these fire departments. So,
Sounds good.
and I would also like to say that we're finishing up that FEMA grant that we got last year. So you'll have $47,000 coming back to the town. Once that money is turned in, that will be turned back in from the federal government. You were asking this morning about writing grants. I've been successful on 4 grant writings. I've got 3 grants when I was the Cooper's Fire Chief. I've got this one last year for us. I just submitted a FEMA grant, a safer grant for the personnel. It was due this Friday. I submitted it last week. All that's been turned in. They will notify June 15th of who is the recipients of it. As of July 1st, you can start hiring. You have 180 days to hire. You have to hire within that. You cannot hire anyone prior to that. So if we will hire somebody, it would be after July 1st, which would work for us anyway, but we'll know June 15th who gets that. grant.
How is your staffing right
We're
now?
full staff.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. We have one leave us that's gone to Garner. So we're running the process next week to replace him. Then I'll have to hire one to go in there. But we normally average about 1, if you look at percentage, 1.5 people per year leaving, going to bigger places. But we have some staff that's been here for quite some time and they do a really good job.
How long had that person been with us? Have they been
5
with-
years.
5 years.
Is that a firefighter or engineer?
That was
or
an engineer,
Engineer.
Which one was?
Ryan Landrum.
Okay, I never knew that.
Yeah, Ryan Landrum. He had been here to come in as a volunteer and he went to Fire Academy, got his stuff and come into our program. And he's all of them, I think, almost like my son, and he was really good, but he's left for more money.
Maybe we can get a good replacement.
I think so. We've got some really good candidates.
Good.
So
And also let them know how much we appreciate everything they've done during this
I will.
time.
I have a very
We've had
good,
lots of house fires.
yes, ma'am. We have a very good, strong career staff, and we have a very good, strong volunteer staff. So we are blessed. Part-time staff is just as good. Most of those guys I've seen come through Fire Academy over there, so I will put them up against anybody.
May I have one
Yes.
question? I guess this may be more for Sam. There's a new line item or there's money now in insurance and bonds for fire department. Have you just broken it out departmentally? Is that why it's being
Yes.
placed there? Okay.
I saw that throughout.
Was that non-departmental before?
Yes.
I have a quick question on travel and training.
Mhm.
Was that just somewhere else? It's 17,300, but there's nothing before that. I'm
It
assuming
was.
we've
Should be
had
in
travel and
1,000.
training.
It
So I'm
wasn't
trying
about-
to maintain consistency in the numbers
Okay.
also, just for myself. So I changed the line item.
Okay.
From 1,000 to 1,400.
Right, there was no increase or any change in there
Okay.
from last year's budget.
And then I know we just learned on the police that they got a discount for the public safety Verizon plan for cell phones. Are we already on that for
Yes, we
y'all?
are.
Okay, good. And then just one last question I have is on software and data support. There's a breakdown of all of it, but it's acronyms and words that I don't know, so. On page 198, I think.
Mhm.
The TriTech, emergency reporting, incident software reporting, active 911.
That's the same thing equivalent to what Troll uses. We have the information come through on the laptops. Then we have to do the report for the system that we can submit that to the state, not to the National Fire Academy also.
And this was just previously somewhere else?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that was in our, actually it used to be in the supply
Would
line.
be contract, it was various places and various.
Contract
Okay.
service.
So I created a line item called software and data,
Okay.
so that way we can keep track better of what we're spending on.
Sure. It just, like from here, it just looks like it's new, so, I just want
It's
clarification.
been in there.
okay.
Reimbursements to the volunteer fire department. It looked like we took that 7,500 out.
No, she actually put that in.
It's actually, it's actually a form of insurance. I don't know why the line was called reimbursement to volunteer fire, but it was an insurance.
It's insurance.
application. So I moved it into insurance. and policy.
Okay.
I was thinking it was the line item we used to have for, you know what I'm getting at. Do we still have that?
No,
Why?
That was changed when the labor stuff changed where we couldn't pay for a certain amount. We had folks that were getting over. That's been probably 10, 11 years ago when that changed out.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What do we do for the department, for the volunteers
Appreciation.
during the year? I mean, we used to have a Christmas party for them, for the entire department, but it really was for the volunteers
That was taken out with,
when Hank got here.
yes.
So my question is, what are we doing for them now?
What we've been doing is we do a 5th Monday night, family night. Everybody pays $5, and at the end of the year, we take the money that we've accrued and come up with that. And then we'll do something as a small gathering. That's what we do. Normally, we buy food from Doug's House or somewhere like that. We just have a small gathering. That's how we've been doing it. So that was taken out of the
But
budget.
they're using their own money to do that.
Yes, sir.
So the town is not doing anything
The
for
only thing the town is doing is out of that 7,500, that gives them an insurance policy is what it does for them. So. I want
How
to
much
say
you,
it's
this
at
was something that was
$10,000.
brought up
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I say that because I was once a volunteer and everybody, the volunteers look forward to it every year. And I remember Hank didn't agree with that, didn't believe in showing appreciation for them, but you got to understand the regular staff, the staff that's up there right now, they're paid staff. They get a salary every 2 weeks. The volunteers, they have to leave home 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to go out and assist the fire department to make us what we are,
Yes, sir.
and then go back and go to a regular job. And at the end of the year, we used to give them a Christmas party
Right,
to show appreciation, but now we do nothing.
right.
So what would be the cost of the party that you throw at the end of the year?
Normally, it's cost us around $1,200, somewhere in that range. So,
Right now, morale is good at the fire department, I
yes, it
think.
is.
It is great.
We have 20 volunteers and all 20 of them at the fireworks with the other day. We actually ended up with 17 people there. That's counting the career staff to come back and the volunteers there, which is a really good number because second quarter next year, we get another insurance rate, which is really good because everything that happened 12 months prior to that counts.
Right.
So that was bad for the homeowner, but good turnout for us.
How does the, I'm speaking to my fellow council people now, how does the rest of the council feel about let's doing something for them
We should.
like we used to at the end of the year?
Lynn, you had your hand up.
I'll go ahead and answer Larry's question. I'm fine with that, Larry. Dan wants it, but I did have a question for Chris. Does the county used to do something, I think, countywide, or
Right,
is that just
county-
We used to
volunteer?
have,
That was
we used,
volunteer. Well, that's anyone in the Nash County Fire
Okay,
Association.
okay, fire association, that's right, all right.
now, we still have the association dinners,
We still have the association.
Okay.
we still have the
See,
association
the
dinners.
county funds that, county
Right.
gives you $700 to do the suppers, is what they do.
Right.
And they have a larger amount for the Christmas dinner that we have.
Okay.
When we have it.
Right. You said it used to be $1,200.
Last year's supper cost about $1,200. Actually, we have someone give a donation to help cover the other costs. So,
I think we need to do something.
We need to show appreciation to these guys as volunteers and families.
And there's no reason why everyone should be paying out of their own pocket. to
That's
do
right,
that.
they're paying for their own party.
Maxwell's out.
Where can we find some money?
I mean, she's got, in his supply line, he's got $13,400. But pretty much he had specifically allocated that dollar for dollar. So
He's
it's my
used it.
recommendation to add $1,200.
We got, you can pull 1,200 out of that?
Well, I would add, it'd be my
That'll come
Add
back
1,200.
down, right?
because if you would actually look, we took the supply line item down about $15,000 because I didn't have to buy some more stuff for the ladder trucks and everything.
I would offer a suggestion that we create a line item of $1,200 for the volunteer staff to be used at the discretion of the chief.
I would say, let's see how revenues go before we commit anything. We know we have a big problem with revenue. We have no idea, Chris. I'd like to give you everything right now. But from my point of view, we need to see what revenues are going to be like. And right now, we don't know.
But I'm not saying let's create it. Well, I did say that. I don't mean let's come up with another $1,200. does he have a line item, do you have a line item that has not been exhausted that we could probably move $1,200 from a line item to another to cover this?
I know where 500 could come from. When we were looking at police, he had put in for uniform for plainclothes reimbursement for 3 people, but he only needs it for 2. So that's 500.
That's 500 there.
If you give me permission, I can probably work that out somewhere in our uniform line item. I can work that out, but I don't want to appropriate money for something like that. And then somebody say, well, why did you do that? So I'll make arrangements to make that
To find
happen
another 500.
with the blessings.
I would like for you to go ahead and make that work. No?
Okay.
So just leave it as it is for now. You're saying,
Yeah, leave it as is.
Find it within the existing budget.
Find it within an existing budget, or even if we had to put it from another department. But I would like to see that happen.
I agree.
I mean, they look forward to that. They used to look forward to that. I realize we got an entirely different generation of people up there now that were there when I was there.
Right.
But I know for a fact volunteers would appreciate that.
Well, also, if volunteerism is down, we need to do something to bring that back up.
Well, you don't ever know what's gonna happen tomorrow. We always need volunteers
It's down across the
Right.
across the country.
all different
So we
kinds
should
of
really be
organizations.
thanking and appreciating the ones
Yeah.
that we have that are loyal.
Because really, without the volunteers, then the chief will come back next week and say, well, I need 2 more full-time people. You know, and we don't have a line item for that either, or budget for that. Make it happen.
Any other questions about anything on the fire budget? Thank you very much. We
Thank y'all.
appreciate all you're
If you have any
doing.
more questions, let me know.
That's great.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, we aren't following our agenda.
No, we're not.
We have it all day.
So where are we going next?
I did want to go back to the fees.
Okay.
Okay.
So I feel like pretty much everybody's comfortable with the revenues as they're presented there in the budget. So at this time, what I'm sensing is that we're going to leave the sanitation fee and the recycling fee increase as is, as stated. And increase the recycling by that additional -6.
Which brings it to a total of 750 as opposed to 741.
What page are you on?
Not on the page I'm using.
So now we're looking at page 24.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, these are our water and sewer proposed rates. As we discussed, we're proposing to eliminate federal mandate fee, restate that as a base fee. And that would be $7.87 with an out-of-town rate of $18.90.
Does everybody agree with that?
It's 1897
1890.
or
That's
1890?
the out-of-town base fee.
1890 and 787, yeah.
Okay.
If there are any comments, I'm gonna leave that in the budget as it is. So we already discussed page 25. Look like there are any changes there. 27, these were some proposed fee changes for the planning department. Requested by the planning department. Just looking to increase some of the miscellaneous fees from $30 to $40. Site development plan from 100 to 150.
Are these
What-
needed to cover costs?
Yes.
Where did she get the rationale from for the major final plat reviews from 25 to 100? The rest of the fees seems like we're doubling them. And then we get down to this one and we've done more than double.
That was based on a look-see what other similar sized towns are charging for the same thing, such as Wilson, Zebulon, Roanoke Rapids.
And that one is the more probably labor intensive.
Exactly.
So that,
Okay.
Okay.
if there are no comments, we'll leave it as is.
Nope.
Parks and Rec, of course, we don't have any fees at this time, so we'll just have to come back to that. Oh, the other thing, another fee that, here it is, business registration fee.
Yeah.
So several years ago, we were able to charge a business license fee. The state did away with that. So at some point, it was decided that we would charge a business registration fee in that place to try to recover some of that revenue. You know, the maximum that we can charge for that is $20. Quite frankly, it's very administratively burdensome to even do that. Not necessarily very business friendly to just charge $20 to every business. It just, we don't really generate enough revenue to really make that a worthwhile endeavor. And it's our request that we just eliminate that fee altogether. Our revenues, back to it here.
We don't collect it
We
from,
just don't collect.
from every business, and for $20, it doesn't warrant spending a whole lot of time
Mhm.
trying to collect.
So
They pay it, they pay it.
we're estimating we're gonna collect about $2,100 in business registration fees, but we've had to probably spend 1,000 or more just in billing and administration. It's just really not a worthwhile endeavor. And it's really more of a burden on the business owner and more paperwork for a business owner to have to do. And, you know, the other possible advantage to having that done is, you know, we can keep track of businesses that we have in the town. We can do that through our water and sewer. I mean, appropriately categorize it through our water and sewer system. We can, our customer utility system, we can
Accomplish the
get that
same thing.
information that way.
So what you're saying is someone could open a business in town and not even have to come up to the town office and say, I'm opening a business.
Well, it depends. I mean, if it's a home occupation, obviously they gotta have that. If they're proposing a business in a commercial area already, they'd have to come in and sign up for water and sewer services. If they didn't need those services or didn't generate it, possibly Louise, but it's not real
And
likely.
it's just a good idea to keep track of who's doing business in the town. What do you think?
But there are many businesses in town that, you know, don't even show up on this list because of the type of business. It's an internet business.
There's no real penalty or enforcement mechanism for this fee. So if they don't pay, if they don't register, I mean, there's nothing we can really do. It's almost kind of extra burden on those who do pay the $20 and file paperwork every year. It just seems kind of.
So some are paying and some are not.
We could have some sort of like registration requirement, just
Yeah, just to
To
keep
have-
track of.
who's in town, but not have a fee.
I mean, you could. But it would be, you know, like I say, administrative burden. It would come at a cost of the town.
Right. Well, I think if it's costing us more than it's generating and not everyone's paying it, we have a fairness factor. I'm okay with,
So this fee is collected every year. This fee should be collected every year.
Yeah,
Correct.
they're supposed to do it every year.
Does the county require registration?
I think we did away with it, if I'm remembering correctly. Same basic reasons. It was very minimal income, very administratively difficult to do.
I guess the privilege tax was what they did away with. And that was a business tax.
In the tax was.
Mhm. And so this was kind of the substitute. And they did away with the privilege tax.
But then this, I'm inclined to agree with Louise. This was a way for us to
Track.
keep track of who's who
Businesses.
a bit. And I realize people have got running business from their homes. They're probably not gonna let you know. Not gonna say anything, but at least we had an idea who was in town.
Well, we do keep track of that through our utility customer service system. You know, each customer is either a residential or commercial. So we could, you know, provide that information.
So if I asked you,
Keep track of that.
so if I asked you that I need a list of all the businesses in Nashville, you could produce me a list.
Yes. Through that, I would probably go to that
It would be more
As
accurate.
the better source of the information.
Okay, well, as long as we're keeping track of it, so.
Well, then, you know, there's the ethical, what are you doing with that information that you're keeping track of? Are we giving it out to somebody so they can go solicit those businesses?
No, I would hope not.
I would hope that we wouldn't do that with it. You know, my question to Tina and Julie about this, so you have this list, now what do you do with it? And the answer is, we do absolutely nothing with it all year long till next year. And then we try and see if it's updated. And if we know of businesses that have come, we add them to it and send them a bill for it.
Can you identify the businesses through them paying their water?
Every customer is labeled as
So
residential.
we
or
can
commercial.
monitor all of the businesses
There are water
that
and sewer
way, just
customers.
as well as if they pay their fee.
But in-home businesses, we would know, we would know about.
Oh, right.
Like I said, I did just want to point out that change was in there. Can discuss that.
Yeah, I saw it going down to zero.
So those are the only fees. So I just want to recap what we discussed this morning. So we're just going to leave the fees as they are. We're going to increase the recycling by the additional 9 cents. Concerning the garbage truck and the vehicles, we're going to eliminate the vehicles at this time. We're going to just postpone those until December. But we're going to leave the garbage truck in there to be debt service. And so we're going to put the Carolinas Gateway back in there. We're going to move the funds from that well 8 construction fund. I'm just going to go ahead and do that this fiscal year, get that done. We're going to move that into the capital reserve fund. I'm going to reach out to retail institutions and some banking institutions to see how impacts are. Eliminate business license fees, and we're going to see about allocating some money within what's already here for volunteer fire appreciation. So that's where we're at this time.
I think on the vehicles though, that was dependent upon what she came back with the interest rate. So if it was low enough, we would consider going forward with it.
Okay, so at this time, you just want me to leave it in there until we
Figure out the interest rate.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, and the yard trash flatbed pickup, we moved that to $100.
Yes, that would be moved to $100.
Okay.
Okay, so moving along, it's now time to discuss the market, the pay study, the pay salary study implementation. A lot of that information can be found in the human resource tab and also in front of you. You've got a copy of some printouts.
Hello, everyone.
Morning, Lou.
I was hoping she would get out of the budget meetings this year.
As Randy sent each of you this yesterday, you should have it with you. Okay, so what this is, I compiled all of the data and tried to put it in a chart so that everything would be handy together. And for Ms. Hinton and for Larry, y'all should remember, this is the same format that was used back in the 2017 study. I took population group that was comparable to us, so towns between 4,500 and 6,500 to come up with an average for our group. So there are 19 municipalities that participated in the League of Municipalities study, which is where I got this data from, that were comparable to us. And based off of their job classifications, I compared that to what our current classifications are and tried to make sure that I had everybody paired up comparably so that I'm looking at the same job classification across all of these municipalities. And based off of that information, on page 3, I have got the average hiring rate, the average maximum salary, and the average salary for each of those pay grades or classifications throughout the like-size cities, excuse me. So I will go on here. So your town clerk, I'll use that one because the manager is basically removed from the studies when it comes to the classification. So I'll start with the town clerk. So the average hiring rate throughout the towns, throughout the state, and our comparable class is 45,692. So I take that data and then I find one of our comparable pay bands to put that position in. And we have been behind year after year. So the average salary, and that's just information for you, that's saying the average clerk throughout the state, that's what the salary they receive. But you're looking at your average hiring rate for that position is 45,692. But then you also look in the smaller, under 5,000 population towns, the town clerk also takes on multiple roles, just like I have in the past. So you've got to take those positions out and look at just the clerk job. So on page 4 at the bottom, you can see that based off of our current classifications and our current salary bands we have, the town clerk fits best in pay grade 27, which is our current pay grade 27, and I don't believe any other position is in that at this time. So that is the hiring rate of 44,000. And 46,211 is the minimum. So we did this for each position that we have through the town, went in and appropriately placed them where they needed to be in our current pay bands, and then calculated the new salary for each employee. So for the purposes of the study, every employee was moved to the minimum, which is going to be that second column, the minimum of the pay band, and then given 1.5% of credit per year of service that they have in that position. So you've got, for instance, one of our longest tenured employee is a maintenance worker. So he's got 21 years of credit as a maintenance worker position. So his new classification, Lee and I bounced back titles, will be a maintenance technician 1. He goes to the minimum and then is given 21 years of service at 1.5% for each year. And that would put him more appropriately where they need to be in the pay study. And I did this for each position. And I can give you an example when I went in to figure out the difference between what we currently have everybody paid. So like the maintenance worker position, our current hiring rate is around 24,000. That is $2,000 less than our like size population group. So this study puts everybody more appropriately where they need to be based off of tenure and other municipalities. We want, if someone were to leave us, we don't want them to be that far behind that they're going to be at a disadvantage if they went somewhere else. And we want to retain our employees. So we want to make sure that they are being paid appropriately. So that is the information in a nutshell in this document that I gave to you all. You can see on page 5 where we put the recommendation. We're going to put everybody in the pay band and then give them that 1.5%. The compression chart, you can see that here. We have 52% of our employees that have been here from 5 to 15 years are below midpoint. And you would expect that at least half of our employees would be above midpoint. We're pretty close. The pay study we did in 2017 did a lot to bring those employees up. So we've made a lot of progress. We're just still behind. And then the primary challenge that brings is when we want to bring in extremely qualified candidates, we have an issue because we're going to bring them in making more than someone that's been here for several years. So that's the primary reason behind doing the pay studies and making sure that we're keeping everybody up. There's not equity issues there. So proposal was to move into the minimum, and that is what y'all directed me to do back in our budget retreat, was to put them at the minimum and the 1.5% to give them credit for their years of service. And then also, I know this was brought up early this morning, the custodian position with the pay increase for that position, that we go up $2 to be more in line with other custodial positions throughout the state. What questions do we have?
Did you want to give a quick explanation on page 7?
Oh, did you give them that? Okay,
Well, maybe Sam had put on there.
y'all have this, okay.
No, they don't.
Lynn's got it. Lynn's got it. Okay, so I didn't know that y'all had this chart, so, all right. And this is where you can see, and the first column is the town of Nashville's hiring rate. So this is currently what our employees come in at. And then in that column beside it, you can see the difference between our average population group, which is the 45 to 6,500, which is the group that was in this study, how far behind. So your maintenance worker position is $1,934 less than our average population group. The second set, which is the darker gray column, this is looking at the whole statewide population. We are actually grouped in the study in the 5,000 to 9,999 group. So we are $2,046 behind in the hiring rate for that group. And then if you average it out, it just shows you what the average of the our current population group versus the statewide population group would be. And then others are my notes to myself. The adjustments for some positions, their smaller towns may not have the exact position, so that's where you're going to have some discrepancies. It might say that a hiring rate is lower and we've classified it higher, but that's because our position we need it for, particularly in finance. We're asking them to do more than another position. Some positions you just aren't comparable. We've got to wiggle around with that. So I've got that spelled out for all of our positions here so you can see the difference.
Now, that pay study is already reflected in this that we got earlier, right?
It's reflected in, yes. And
It is, okay.
Any questions or comments from the council to Lou concerning this?
Yeah. Do you remember right off the top of your head, Lou, what roughly the total was? I'm thinking a
That's
number of
what I was-
140,000.
yeah, I had my rough number I gave y'all, that first one was 136,930, but I think Sandy has it broken down.
Okay.
It's in the major requests.
It's on the 42,000.
So in the general fund, and I've included all the fringe benefits with that as well. It's about $100,000 increase, and in the enterprise fund, it's about $42,000.
What page is that on? Sam?
276.
If you recall, the current fiscal year we're in right now, the council used the wage and salary study for public safety employees with the understanding that this fiscal year we're budgeting for now, the non-public safety employees would get the same look-see and increase.
I think it's prudent for us to do this, given the fact that I actually did go back and look through the minutes. And it was brought out during the sessions that the council had at that time regarding the budget. And when this was put in place last year for the public safety folks, that the intent was, in fact, I think Mr. Barefoot said, if you're not going to do it for the whole staff, then don't do it last year.
Right.
So I think we need to do this. I feel like that the town's most important asset is our employees. So I'm in favor of us putting this pay study implementation in place.
I agree.
And we're gonna have the money to do it.
We don't know that.
Well, my thought on it is that when we get down to a more refined budget, if other things need to go, maybe some other things need to go, but that this is critical, that it is done.
And this is ongoing. I mean, it's not just
It is
1 year.
ongoing.
It's not like a vehicle that you buy and, that's
mean,
it.
But we can't
Can't
go back and
stop
take
time.
away from
Exactly.
public safety people what they received.
Exactly, but we didn't have the virus when we
I
implemented
understand that, Louise, but I think you're going to do a great disservice to the town and to the staff and morale if we don't put this in place.
And I agree that we need it. We just don't know about our revenues.
I think we need to go forward with it. I'll just leave it at that.
And I think, you know, what you said, you know, if we see that the money is tight, then we need to cut some other things out
Mhm. Yeah.
to make sure that we.
There's an entire budget here that needs to be looked at, not just pay study.
We had already eliminated the COLA. Originally, we wanted to put in a 2% COLA. In fact, when I was, you know, reaching out to others, a lot of folks still are proposing a COLA. Springfield proposing a 1.5% COLA. Henderson is proposing a COLA yet to be determined. Lewisburg a 1.6% COLA and Tarboro a 3% COLA. Kind of following the listservs. Lots of places are still trying to push forward with the COLAs. So the COLA is one thing that has been cut out, but this one, like it's been said, public safety was done last year with the assumption that the rest of the employees would be caught up. I mean, so they've already had a whole year of increase, whereas all the other employees have had to wait.
Our other people are expecting it.
Mhm.
And to not give it to them, we tell them that
We already said we would.
And you can see, I mean, if you look through, I mean, line by line, the ones who are, you know, getting the largest increases are the ones who have been here the longest. And it's some of our
Yeah.
lowest paid employees. You know, so. Yeah. I will say also with the, salary and things that are related to salaries, at the time when I prepared the budget, I didn't know how much the retirement was gonna be. So I budgeted very conservatively, so I over budgeted for that. I think I budgeted at 10.4, ended up being 10.22%. And I also over budgeted in the sewer fund. So we will have a reduction in what we're gonna have to spend by about $6,000 in the general fund and by about $1,000 in the enterprise fund, now that we know how much that rate's gonna be.
And that's already reflected in your,
So it's not.
It is not,
So it's
okay.
actually at the older rate. So
okay, so you'll make that change.
So when you revise that, you'll bring it back to us and.
that's right.
Okay.
So that's just some money that we can
Towards
just
that.
go ahead and cut out.
well, it wouldn't, even though we're in trying times right now and don't know what the future's gonna bring, we've already spent time, money, and effort to come up with this study. And to come up with it and then put it on your desk and do nothing with it, we just throwing money in the wind. So we did it for a purpose, and I suggest let's go along with it.
And we did discuss,
We did discuss last year.
if we're gonna do this, we have to do all of it, and we can't promise to one and not to
Not do-
the other.
not do
And
the
so
other.
to be promise keepers, I
We
think we
made
need to
that,
go
we
forward
made that
with it.
promise last year. So if we have to go back and cut somebody else, cut something else, we have to do it. But this, I think, our word depends on this right here.
Mhm.
So let's go forward.
Any other comments?
We may have to rethink a lot of things then.
We may have to.
Well, I think that's a great time to segue into our last but not least, which is gonna be very thorough discussion, and I'd like to turn you to page 276, which is our capital outlay and other major funded items.
Sam, maybe before we get there, as long as we have Lou here.
Yes,
Page 139 is the Human Resource Department budget. As long as Lou's here, if anybody had any questions about that particular budget.
What did you just say?
139.
While we turn there, I think, I mean, I've looked at everything, but I think one thing we need to keep, we need to treat people fairly. I'm all for that. But we need to realize that we're responsible for our bills and not all these other towns listed here. So, you know, we may have to trade off because Nashville's the one that pays Nashville's bills. Give me the page again, please.
139, or 139 is the beginning of
Thank you.
their budget. I just had a question with regard to professional services. And where did you explain that? On 142, I think is where you did the breakdown. So are these things that we already have? Is this
Yes.
something new that we're doing or
There's nothing new.
nothing
in
new?
our budget
Okay.
Except for the HR software, the VC3. That's
Okay.
it. These are all absorbed in administration and non-departmental.
Got it. Okay. The software and data support, same thing, we've had that?
That's
Nothing new?
new. That's the HR software.
The
That's
HR
included with
software,
the Finance.
it's included in that 100,000?
It's not included in there. It's, so the HR portion, it's a whole piece, the whole software is one big software.
Okay,
I'm just allocating her part, HR piece.
Now, we will not have this expense every year, will we?
You will have annual maintenance fees. You already do have annual.
I know, but not this big. will it?
Correct.
The only thing that is current, that virtual image technology, that's my scanning
Okay.
software. That is something that I currently
Okay.
have.
so now this number though will go down because you negotiated the deal for the 3 years. So that will be part of a reduction in here too, right?
That's right. And like I say, I budgeted very conservatively for the software, just not having any prices at the
Mhm.
time. The vendor, like I said, the vendor that we liked the most actually came in the best price. And so we've been able to get that price down. So that would reduce.
We'll have an updated book for next time. Okay.
Something else I wanted to mention was, okay, the new HR budget is 169,975, and this is a point I made earlier. Randy, when you put the clerk under the manager, that came to 283,795. You add those two together, HR, manager, clerk, which was formerly our administration at what, 317,000? It balloons to 453,770. And there's a difference of 136,579. But that doesn't include all the stuff under, as you said, non-departmental. These are just things that go along with the clerk's job, the manager's job, and HR.
But I think those are the things that they were not in the admin budget last year. They were in non-departmental.
No, I've already checked that. And I wanted to make that clear when you asked that earlier. These are things that go along with HR, they go along with the clerk, and they go along with the manager. And they're not in the non-departmental,
No, they're not now.
and they weren't before.
So can I have an example?
But anyway, 136,579. In other words, in creating HR as a separate department and putting the clerk back under administration, it's costing the town, it looks to me like 136,000 more.
I'd have to look into that, but I don't think that's really the case. The only increases really here are salary related. We've got some for the website and for the software. Mainly those are the main increases. Pretty much her budget, if you look on page 142, she pretty much listed out every single item that's being paid out. And this is something I've requested all of us, is you haven't really seen it like this before. I know there's been some confusion. But you can see here everything that they have requested.
That, I mean, my question was answered when I had that same assumption as you, but I found the ones that I was looking for saying, oh, this is new, back in non-departmental, and they had simply been moved over. And I know we do have that huge contract in there for 100,000. Is that accounting for any of your increase?
No,
So can you give us an example of what you're looking at that's new?
in breaking up,
Retiree insurance used to be, I believe, wasn't that in
That was a
non-departmental?
non-departmental.
yeah.
And that's 46,000.
So to remind the employee appreciation, that was a non-departmental under miscellaneous.
Right.
That's for
It's
Christmas
just
party
increasing all
and
these.
for the
Check your
service
hand.
awards and bereavement, that's all that. Safety was a non-departmental. Workers' comp premium was a non-departmental. Insurance, unemployment, that was all non-departmental. And wellness was non-departmental.
Now those are all in the HR
Right.
budget.
That non-departmental budget has decreased by.
Right. Hundreds of thousands.
Louise, are you talking about the increase in raises for the HR,
She's saying when you take what used to be covered in the admin budget,
Which
It's
was,
now been broken out to 3 separate. So we have the manager as one, we have the HR representative as one, and we have the clerk as one in these line items. It used to all just be under admin for
370,000.
370,000. And now that we've broken them apart, it appears that there's a $150,000 increase when you add those 3 total. But I think what we're trying to say is that increase can be found because so many things used to be in non-departmental last year, several hundreds of thousands of things that have now been broken up and moved to each individual department from non-departmental. So when you go to non-departmental in this budget, it's been slashed. There's only like 4 or 5 things left in there. Everything else has been allocated where it belongs. So it looks like an increase, but I don't think that there's this huge increase. Because it's the non-departmental is decreasing.
Yeah, it has decreased by $330,000.
I know a lot of the safety, all of those went to the various departments. And there were many other things that went to the departments also.
Mhm.
Anyway, the way Sam, I'd like to sit down with you probably one-on-one and go over it with you.
With regard to this budget that we've got here, I mean, pretty much everything is dollar for dollar, has been dollar for dollar budgeted out. If you look on page 142, you can see a very detailed list of all of the items that have been included in the budget.
All of which were included in last year's budget, other than just that new software component for
That's
the
right.
10,000.
Any other questions? Have any other questions? Louise? And I see where you're getting your figures from. I do. And I don't understand it either, but because help us.
I'm just wondering if it might be helpful if you could provide for us, Sam, for all the council, those items that have been prorated or spread out now to other departments, because I think that's what's skewing this. Because like the insurance, total insurance that was total insurances that were in non-departmental, some now have gone and been spread out to fire, police, and all the other departments. So that's what's throwing us.
The total of the property and liability was $76,000. That has now been allocated. That used to be in non-departmental.
Okay.
And now that has been allocated. In fact, you'll see some in the government and your budget as well. It's $1,600 in the public officials bond, specifically related to bond for council. Workers' comp, the total of that was $87,875. And that was what was broken out between all the departments. Unemployment. Oh, there's nothing budgeted for unemployment. IT, the total cost that has been allocated out is $164,000.
Okay.
And that does include some one-time startup fees.
And now that's the
That's at VC3.
VC3, which is new this year, as we found out we did not have. So that's a nice chunk that's added in to everyone's budget, broken up.
Those are the only things that were allocated out between all the departments. But legal fees. And that one was kind of a challenge because you don't know how much your legal fee is going to be. And some departments are going to have more legal than others. You know, some departments might not have any legal fees. HR may have some related to personnel matters. So hers is probably a higher increase than.
Lynn?
If you look at the amended 2019 and 20 budget, the year we're in now, the totals for manager. Gotta get my brain going a minute. Manager, HR, clerk, and non-departmental. Just those 4 departments. The total for this current year's amended budget was $1,275,103. Then if I take for the proposed budget year, those same departments, the manager, clerk, HR, and non-departmental, that total is $976,814. But then when you take into account those 3 large items that Sam just spoke of, the 76,000 out of last year's amount, the 87,875 for workers' comp, and the 164,000 for IT, then we're comparing $947,000 to $976,000 for next year. I do think it still might be helpful for us just to get the picture in front of us, Sam, if you can provide just a
It was
chart,
difficult.
That would be
Looking
nice,
back at the
because
report.
I'm not an
Totals.
accountant.
you know, like,
I kept writing the line items I thought it was.
I say the main increases between the 940 to the 970 are gonna be the website, your salary increases, and the VC3 and the other items. that
Financial
were-
software.
So she took it out in the first calculation, and just got to put back in that portion into the second calculation.
but if we can see this year's amended budget numbers departmentally for those departments with those.
With
big ticket
titles that
items.
I can understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a beginner with this, in this area, but I don't understand the mystery things. I need a concrete name that I can get a hold on. You know what I mean?
And it does get hard to follow, particularly when we're reclassing and
And also, when all of that was put under governing body, all that litany of stuff that shouldn't have been there, that confused things too, because a lot of those were in non-departmental.
yeah.
And so everything is just
It's different.
discombobulated.
This is different. I knew going into this that there would be some questions. I'm happy to provide whatever information. But I do think in the long run, this is gonna be, we can clearly show what is
Right.
allocated out to the HR function, clearly show what's administrative, clearly show what's council, and clearly show what is non-departmental.
I have a request. In those explanations, which I love, how each department has explained what is in each of their line items. If we could just have something, in bold or whatever it may be, of what's new versus what we've already had existing, that would be extremely helpful, because some of these things we're seeing for the first time, your software, I didn't know we had that. So, I'm looking at it thinking this is a new expenditure. Do we need this? So if we could just have bolded or highlighted or whatever it is, that's something new. That way we can see, we need to look at it and see, do we actually really need this versus we've already
I'd
had
like
this and we're
to
just paying
I'm right
maintenance.
with you. I'd like to see a spread visual sheet with all this on it, so I can look at it and see it visually, and then I think I can understand it.
Now, these details, these are what the department submitted to us.
Right, they're very different.
That's
Some
right.
gave great detail, some gave minimal detail,
Right.
some
And this was
explained
this was kind
ancillary,
of-
some didn't.
And the software in every department, it looks like we're spending a fortune on software. And that needs to be, we need to,
Figure out
Our
what's
software-
needed and,
I would
Total
say our
edit.
software across is quite old. She doesn't even have any software, hasn't had any software. Planning does not have any software. So we're trying to address those issues, especially with this COVID-19 and having to just seeing kind of where we're lacking customer service wise.
yeah.
And
I'm
it's showing
under,
us,
I thought planning had software.
they have GIS software, but they don't have planning software.
what were you
So
saying?
we're basically they're using spreadsheets in Microsoft Word to do everything. And it doesn't tie into anything that we're doing. So a customer comes in, and just from a customer service standpoint, they come in, they want to pay their permit fee. We have to get up, go call Tina. Tina's got to come up to the front. And it just doesn't look very put together. We should be able to just pull up the customer, tell them what their fee is, and they go ahead and pay it. So we're trying to move toward, more of a comprehensive package for the whole town, for all the departments, that serves all the employees and also serves the customers. Not just now, but something that's going to carry us forward. Software that we had lasted us 15 years. We're looking for something we're going to get the same useful life out of. But, things are just so different now than they were 15 years ago. So, yeah, it's a lot of software needs. We're trying to address everything, but, it's almost kind of a good thing to address all this all at once. Website, Because all of those things are gonna tie in together with the IT that we're upgrading right now. All of those things are gonna fit really well together, and it's gonna be like one holistic, planned out strategy, rather than piecing things together as we go along.
So when are we meeting again? The
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. So if you would just get some, like something for a beginner to really see and understand, I might as well fess up, but I'm learning and I just want to do the right thing, you know. So I think if you have some type of spreadsheet of what all you're saying, if you just simplify it, would be great.
Do you guys like what the HR budget has for description of expenses in a particular line item? Just ask if there's something new, it'd be bold.
Right, bolded,
Right.
highlighted, something just
Or
to
color
indicate.
coded. or
Right, something to
so we-
indicate if it's new, because when I was looking through this, some of them, many of them, because they've never been in these line items before, don't have anything before to show
Right.
what it was last year.
Yeah.
So then I would go back to the description of what it is, and I'd see all of this new, what I thought was new software, and I'm thinking, wow, do we really need 6 new programs? But now finding out, we already had them all. So if you just highlight or bold or something to tell us what's new versus what we already have,
Right.
then we know we can talk about
And
whether
then
it's
we can see
needed or,
actually how much we're
right,
spending.
right. Versus how much has already been spent, we're
Right.
just maintaining.
Well, now, some of the smaller items, no, I didn't do that. But I did provide that information for your major items. That is on
276.
page 276. I also wanted to show major items that we cut out. In case, you know, that's just also for your.
There,
for your-
276.
276.
Mhm.
So while we're on these topics, like the website upgrade for the 18,000. Social media retention software, the agenda management software. So these are all new.
These are all the new items.
And
Right.
Sam, is this a universal software that goes to every department?
Yes. That's right.
I didn't know that existed.
So the social media and the agenda
Those
management,
no.
that's included in,
Those are separate.
okay, these are separate.
The clerk will use those.
Right. So, like, I know we do have an obligation to retain communications on social media, and anyone can easily delete that if they're admin. And the same with text messages. I saw that the cheaper way for text messaging was screenshots, and I know it's not searchable. But nobody ever said you had to make it easy. So are these things that we can hold off on?
I would say I would not hold off on the social media aspect,
Okay,
just because we have 11 different social media pages at this
11,
point. 11.
what are they?
We have the town YouTube channel, we have the town Twitter account, we have Fire and PD, who both have Facebook and Twitter. Library has Facebook and Twitter, no, and Instagram now, I'm sorry. And then Parks and Rec has Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And screenshotting you can, but
Well, I think for social media,
And it's not visible in court.
social media admin is the one who has to delete it. So it would still be up if nobody deletes it, right? So do we just want to give like one person the master admin? Would that be a feasible way to go? I don't know.
It would be a combination.
I would be hesitant to do that.
Okay,
I would be very, very hesitant to do that. And quite frankly, if somebody has a lot of fans in it, I would not want all that accountability to
okay.
be placed in one person.
But on that 276, you can see the major things that are included in this budget. At the top, we We already talked about the salary and wage or the market study, what those count for general fund and enterprise fund, and then VC3, the website, social media, the agenda management software, comprehensive plan, the first 75,000 for that. The financial software, 100,000 for that. The public buildings, town library or town hall lobby, the front counter there at 20,000. Public works, office and grounds, 35. Library generator and awning at 22. The police, you got the 3 new vehicles with upfits at 165. Hopefully those will come in less than that. The portable radios, the mobile radios, the fire department, the 3 firefighters, pending that grant. And then to replace the Tahoe and the Suburban for the fire department, and 7 radios for them. And then the first 100,000 to get started with Station 2, Fire Station 2. Sanitation, you got the garbage truck in there. Now the yard waste site improvements. Are we going to need those, Sam, since we got that whole site cleaned up? If the council chooses, as long as the stuff's on the truck, we just take it out the alkalis and get done with it. We don't need that 35,000, do we? That was to put a shed.
I would say, I mean, it's up to council.
Did Lee propose that we put it there temporarily and then Al Kali picked it up? Is that what he had said? What happened? No? Okay,
Well, it's
just
on the
go
truck.
straight.
Go straight.
Take it
Okay.
straight.
So then, I think you're right.
And then for water operations, that enclosed trailer, so they can keep all the parts, the repair sleeves and hydrant repair kits and everything. They're chasing back to the garage to get once they figured out what they're dealing with. This way they pull up at a water leak with that trailer. Everything that's going to take to fix that is in that trailer right there. And of course, the rehab of the lift station out at the DOC, Department of Correction.
Did you ever get that checked out by a surveyor?
Not yet, but I got a price on it. So what the mayor is asking about, well, the old mayor had advocated for years that possibly the prison could gravity flow, and looking on Google Earth and comparing the elevations from there to where the old Elm Street lift station used to be, it looks possible. Now, having spoken with Kevin Varnell, our engineer, he's saying, yes, elevation wise, it looks possible, but you have to factor in the distance. Because you have to have minimum grade and fall in between manholes. And when you factor in that distance, he thinks we're about 17 feet short of elevation we need to do it. But he said the only way to know for sure is to do like we did with wheelless and have Strickland shoot the elevations and know what they are from here to there.
And if it will work, it will save us money. If it will not, we have no other choice.
Are we already into it to 25,000?
On that rehab, yes, we are on this.
Is there,
But even if that did gravity flow, by time we would get the engineering done and budget, we're probably 3 years away from doing any such project. And that lift station is not going to survive another 3 years without major money put into it. So
because
it's
of,
not money spent for nothing.
because of the nature that it's a state prison, is there any sort of like funding possibilities that we would be able to get? Any grants, anything to help us out
I'm
with
looking
that?
into that. I don't know if they qualify under the CDBG as low to moderate. Obviously, none of them have any income to speak of, so they'd all.
Any sort of assistance from any,
Right,
because we're providing the service.
right.
I've even posed the question to the state, they like to take over the lift station.
They did.
Right. Maybe we can pose to the state that they kick in some.
Sharing some of the
this.
cost.
Right.
Well, they assume they are with what they pay for sewer fees.
How did we mitigate the $287,000 water leak issue?
They received a credit. And their account.
Last forever.
Basically, that we didn't pay them, we didn't pay it out to them. We just issued a credit to them.
So how long will it
So how
take
long
for
will
that
that-
credit to be eaten up?
6 months.
How many months are we into
So
it?
we're about trying to eat it up. It's about gone, right?
That's a-
Hopefully
They are
get
our
it done with
largest-
it by the end of this month.
Largest use,
Right.
so that will come back to us.
Exactly.
That's good.
But as far as increases are concerned, just once again, it's a $1.9 million increase over our original current year budget. All of these items here that are in our other major funded items list total 1.7 million. So that accounts for all but about just under 200. Other things that we have already discussed would be increased sanitation and recycling costs. Those are about $200,000. So that just about accounts for the entire $1.9 million increase.
So we are $2 million over our 1920 budget,
The original budget,
the original budget.
And how much over the amended?
it's a decrease.
A decrease. I think you're right. It's like 400,000.
It's a $412,000 decrease. But that is largely as a result of a transfer that I had to do in the water and sewer. fund.
And that needs to be explained because I don't think anybody really understands that. And I don't. And that inflated the budget, the amended budget enormously and skewed it. And so we're looking at a skewed overage.
But it should have been done a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
several years ago.
So how much was the amendment?
It's about $1.2 million.
Buildings for
That should have been done.
Page 4 of the flip,
So now we're having to do it now.
Say that again. What are we having to do now? Wait, let me get my right information.
Everybody turn to 4 on the flip.
Okay, on this one, right?
Okay.
Page 4, Randy, you asked us to number the pages. I numbered my pages.
Well, this makes it so much easier.
Well, it would
So
be
we have-
nice if they were always good numbers. Okay, the original
I hope
budget,
You guys were finished on the roof.
Because she's gone.
well, the original budget, or 10,346,000,
Over there.
Whole time.
That's where you put it.
It was fair, but
and then it's amended. Okay, in that amended, that's $2,348,087 difference. Okay, so what did we do?
So I have reconciled that. It's on page 5 and
Right.
page 6. You can see all the budget amendments that were done. In the general fund, there was a non-cash reimbursement to the enterprise fund. I had to book a journal entry. It was an auditor entry that was supposed to have been done many years ago, back in 2014. They booked the liability, but they never followed through with just carrying it forward.
And see, that's something we didn't understand.
Yeah, it's a non-cash,
And what was?
no
the
money is
dollar amount?
actually being spent, but it has to be accounted for, 319,000, that was just a transfer from the general fund to the capital reserve fund, been sitting on our balance sheet.
But there again, it skews the budget. It makes it look like,
It was a larger budget than it was.
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Mhm.
When in fact, the only things we did, the cemetery outbuilding, the police vehicle repairs, the police software, the chipper repair. See, I thought we bought a new chipper.
Well, we had insurance money for that.
Okay, so that offset, okay.
The other major non-cash, it's really just a transfer, it has to be expensed out, occurred in the enterprise fund, and that was 1.2 million.
And see, that's the biggie. That's what
To
nobody,
clear out those old capital project funds that had negative cash balances.
That's at the bottom of page 6.
Okay.
but see, that looks like we were spending money left
Right,
and right.
left,
It was
yeah.
already spent. And that's the problem, it never was really shown that way, so we're having to show it this year.
So actually, it was only about $200,000 that was above and beyond.
The 10 million.
Mhm.
So basically,
So this skews the entire budget. It makes us look like we were spending money like,
Anytime you have a transfer of funds in your budget, it increases the budget number.
which takes us back to page 4. And it makes it look like we were spending more money than we really were.
so basically, Sam, the only really debt overage you're gonna have, it looks like it's gonna be the fire station, pretty much. Is that
Debt
true?
overage.
I mean, debt. Instead of having the 2 million that we thought was gonna be extra to our budget, we really aren't gonna have that because of all this that you're getting in.
No, this is last year's budget, right? This is what we're looking at?
Current year budget.
The current year's
This year.
budget, right?
The
So we're,
increase for the new one, we thought was gonna be about 2 million or 1, but that's not gonna be
It's
the
not really,
case.
it's not really 2 million.
It's not a $2 million cash increase, no.
Right.
We haven't spent 2 million additional dollars.
but I think what
Okay,
Louise is saying is if we're looking at next year's budget compared with the amended budget of this year, it looks like we're under. But in fact, if you take out these big transfers that were made, we are over.
That's right. So that's why I reconciled, I wanted to show that to you in the presentation.
So we have increased this year
So I
from
did,
last year.
I did reconcile that. It's a $1.9 million increase, and these items equal about $1.7 million of it. And so about the other 200,000, some of that sanitation increases, sanitation recycling fee increases.
Okay, so all those big items account for
They're-
where our
About
overage is
$1.9
coming.
million.
So Sam, simplify. What is the increase in the
1.9
next year's
million.
budget compared to the one we have now?
So if you
The one
compared to the
now,
original budget, it's $1.9 million increase. And so those items have been reconciled. All of the items on this list equal $1.7 million. So the other 200 could be easily explained by your sanitation fee increases. We've really tried to maintain a very conservative operating budget. A lot of the things that you see here are one-time costs. They won't come back. Really, the only things that are going to be ongoing costs are going to be your market salary study and your IT service. Comprehensive plan, you're gonna have to pay the next half of the next fiscal year. We're gonna split the financial software over the next 3 years. Every year, you've got to replace some radios, police and fire, because they're very expensive. It's a very expensive one-time cost to do that all in one lump sum.
and vehicles will have to be.
Vehicles. Garbage truck, obviously, we won't have to do that next year. We'll eliminate the yard waste site improvement. Of course, we won't be doing the DOC lift station rehab, but we may have some other lift station rehab project, in another year to do.
Just about everything here in public building we want is a one-time thing.
Mhm.
Sam, okay, the 1.9 million above the original budget from 1920. It's a 19% increase. That's a lot. That's a big increase from our original budget. And we have to think about revenues. If we're 19% above what we were last year in our original budget, where's the money coming from if they're telling us that we're going to have reduced revenues?
Well, I say I budgeted quite conservatively on our revenues. Of course, there's still some uncertainty. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I have done my best to budget very conservatively, so we don't have.
But there's a lot of these one-time things that we're paying this year that reflects the 21 budget. That if we took that out, it wouldn't look as bad as what it really
Right.
looks like.
Which means we might have to reconsider all those things. If you don't have the money.
Go ahead.
One suggestion I think that might help all of us, and maybe by next week if we could, Sam, is to come back with maybe the proposed line item budget so that everything's in place, but then to have these items spelled out in comparison from the original 2019-20 budget to the 2020-21 budget, so that we can see, you know, this is where we were this current year, this is where we want to be next year. We know these things, but I think when we get that, in addition to seeing the whole budget revenue-wise with what we're saying we will leave in, and expenditure-wise with what we've got, we're going to see where it falls out, revenues versus expenditures, because that's going to be our key. Do we have enough revenue to sustain the budget that's being recommended here?
And you know, somebody like me, if just the citizens, like she said, it had increased 19%, I'm gonna say, not knowing everything, I'm gonna say, well, my taxes increased 19% to take care of this. That will be, as a citizen, that would be my first thought, you know, not knowing budgeting that well.
But we can say there is no tax increase
Right,
involved in
right.
this.
And we need to make sure of
Yeah.
that.
make
But
sure
when
that-
they see the $7.50 increase in water and sanitation, they're gonna see that as an increase.
Tax. It's
But
all-
those are
About tax.
specifically allocated. All of the fees that are, you know, proposing to increase are specifically allocated to those programs.
All right, the only way to eliminate that is either we pay for it, which is
Right.
also the taxpayers,
Yes.
or we eliminate the yard waste pickup. And I think that that would be not a popular decision to make.
We just need to pray that some money comes in and we can get the revenue in, but like so many unknowns right now. But I think, like Lynn said, if you will come back with that, I think we can better understand it and then just go a straight and narrow way to get this budget settled. Do any of you have any other requests from Sam? And Sam, we appreciate all you've done,
Very much.
all the hard work. It's out of my pay league.
We're just trying to understand.
Right.
And I still don't understand the 1.2 million in the enterprise fund, the non-cash reimbursement. From what project was that?
It was, I believe it was two different projects. Can't quite remember what they were. They
And-
were
and
all
so-
projects.
And I need to know that. I mean, Larry, wouldn't you?
I don't know what it
It's
is.
in the budget amendment. It's in your agenda packet. I provided all, like when we did that budget amendment, all of the information regarding those two projects.
And actually, Louise, I was surprised our auditors hadn't pointed that out in prior years.
Yeah, and why it comes back to us now. And as I said, excuse the budget. It really makes it look like.
Some of it's for record-keeping purposes to make
Yeah.
sure that we have everything allocated, but I would have thought it would have been caught from an audit perspective before.
I think it was caught, and I think it,
Just never,
in our audit, I believe it's already been reflected and done in our audit. So it's not going to be like a huge dip in our,
so it was done for audit
So,
purposes, but
it
not on the
wasn't done on our
books.
books.
You're saying that it was done, the auditors did an audit entry in order for our financial statements to be correct, but it was never done
not
on the
Internally.
financial system of the town.
But aside from that, the enterprise fund only went about 200,000 above, you know. But on the books, it looks much worse. And when you're making comparisons on page 4, it looks like we've been cooking the books.
why?
And I'm not saying.
I'm trying to clean them up.
Exactly.
He's trying to get them.
I'm trying to clean them up, you know, since day one.
But again, it makes you think, okay, where did we go wrong? What wasn't done? Who didn't do what? Just like, you know, out at our waste site.
Okay, so just so I can get an understanding of how you guys would like this information presented. So I've got my proposed line item budget here, which shows you your 18-19 amended. And it shows you your amended budget.
Right, I think that's
So would you
where
like to see
Louise's
the
problem
original
is. She wants to see the original so that we, and you can even do the original with the budget amendments that were the police software purchase, you know, the things that actually were spent.
Yeah.
Those can be included in that, right, Louise?
Can you do it that way, Sam? And the non-cash ones out?
Just, yeah, kind of pull the non-cash aside.
Okay, so you just want to see expenditures.
What we
just
actually
plain
spent.
cash expenditures. Well, most of your non-cash expenditures are gonna be in your 660 budgets. Your non-departmental budgets. That's where your non-cash expenses are gonna be.
So I think we want to see
Transfers.
the recommended this year, and you did it versus the amended budget, so we could see whether we were over or under. And I guess those items are going to stay the same no matter what, because the big items, so when we look at the total budget, that's where we're coming in this discrepancy with the 2 million. But these items right here, that is what was actually spent in
The
these
amended
departments.
budget. Yeah, I mean, the non-cash expenses, if you look in your 660 budget, that's where those are, all your transfers. The only transfer that's in a budget is gonna be that new fire, the $100,000 for the fire station, because that's going to be in the fire budget.
I just want to see a simple visual that I can understand.
So I think what everyone wants to see is where you have us being, and you did that where you spelled out.
I'm just
Because
trying
now-
to clear what.
Right, and now that I'm looking at it,
it.
like when we're looking at the amended budget in here, that's not any fudgy numbers. That's exactly what was spent, because we're not talking about the money that was transferred from the enterprise. We're talking about the salaries and wages was $6,000, and now the recommendation is, $6,000. Like, we're looking at numbers that are actual when we're looking at the line item budget. So, but what you guys want,
You could back out the non-cash expenses. So.
Could we do this, Sam? I'm trying to picture this in my mind. It's kind of hard. The line item budget is good and we need that, but can you maybe give us a summary budget by department? So we see a total for governing body, the original budget for this year, the recommended budget for next year, the difference, and then maybe if there's something that can explain briefly what that increase or
That'd be
decrease might be for the total department without going line item by line item. We may have to dig down into the line items.
Right.
Some of these may be partially. Probably in my budget summary tab, very first tab here. Some of these.
okay.
Well, that's just, so page 13 is just your summary. It shows there's no comparison. Page 14, once again, I wanted to show total dollars versus town dollars. Town dollars is actually what we're spending.
Okay, tell me, when you say town dollars, you mean,
Basically, property tax, subsidized by property tax.
okay, we've never used that term before.
So it's what
anything
we,
else, it's
right.
net of your fees, net of the fees that you're charging for the service.
okay.
What she's trying to show departmentally is that there's certain fees that we've collected that would be applicable to certain departments. For the fire tax, for instance, that can't be used for other things. So it basically reduces the amount that we have to pay from property taxes for fire services. And she's trying to show departmentally each case of that, where there might be some fees that are attributed just to this particular function, whereas everything else has to be paid for with property tax or sales tax, because those are our major revenues. It's not so much so critical necessarily in budgeting. It's important to know maybe. But I think from my standpoint, and the way you've got it broken down here departmentally, where we could see the 2019, 2020 original budget,
Right.
governing body, manager, human resources, right on down. And then another column comparing that to the 2021 recommended budget, whatever the difference is between that budget originally and the budget being proposed. And if we need some kind of an explanation of what that increase is.
So if we look on page 18, so it's sort of like that, except a column that shows the original budget as well.
Yes,
1920
yes.
original budget,
Yes,
and then the difference in the,
right.
and then a brief explanation of the major.
Yeah, if there's some big change
Well,
or if it
That
can.
will help us understand it
Mhm.
better, I think.
so I think this already answers my questions. This chart that's right here, I think the only problem is that we didn't have a manager, a human resource, and like a clerk separated out, you know? So that's where Louise is bringing up that point of when she adds all of these together, it's coming to very different numbers because you've taken things from non-departmental. So it's very difficult to say what was last year's versus, or this year's versus next year's, because we don't have an administrative budget any longer.
It's like apples to oranges.
Right.
almost.
Right. So
We can take.
I'm fine with using the amended budget because, as I said, you know, police increased because of an actual expenditure that we had. Where it gets fuzzy and confusing is the water and sewer, because then you're seeing those big numbers.
And I like what Lynn said to do, if that's feasible to do that.
I mean, we just having some sort of explanation as to why we went from this point at the
Right.
beginning of the year last year to this point, beginning of the year for
Right.
this year compared to next year.
Or if we can just see the figures and then we can talk about it, you know, once you plotted them out.
This might be a tall order considering it's 1 week.
It is going to be.
Well, I mean, I think you've got a good starting point right here, Sam.
Right.
Yeah,
Because you just would need to add the 1920 original budget column.
Right. And then when you have a big jump in numbers for the amended, you can have a little, you know, star for an explanation of
We're
why
not-
that happened.
Yeah, we don't have to know every single dollar difference, but just the big thing that would drive
Right.
any differences we have.
And, you know, obviously finance is going to look very different. So just the $100,000 for the software.
Mhm.
right.
And just keep in mind, that, you know, many of the budgets have, all the budgets have increased because of the non-departmental items have been
Costs, yeah.
reallocated.
Right.
So
Right.
There's going to be that.
Do look at HR and clerk and manager again, how it's, you know, organized now as compared to before. There is a difference. And if I'm wrong, I want to see it. I really do. But I looked at it and looked at it. And all I could see is it's costing us more to reorganize.
Well, it is, because don't you know their salaries went up?
And
Right,
DC3.
BC3 is in there and the
Did
website.
they go up that much?
No, the total salary for everybody is less than the difference that she's finding.
That's
Total
what-
for everybody's 142.
So we'll get-
Anyway.
We'll get that squared away.
Yeah.
Any other input for the budget? Is everybody brain dead by now?
I am brain dead, but I
Brain
still
dead
do
by
have
now.
questions.
Okay.
HR, we already went through.
Still on HR.
Governing body. I have a couple of questions on this. And
Page.
I'm sorry, 81. I'm looking at the original one, not the one that you handed out today, just because that's where my notes are. And I see in professional services, which may or may not still exist in this grouping. Did that move?
23,000.
That has moved.
Okay, that's moved, but whether it's moved or not, that one is the Muni Code, legal, and VC3. The website development, have we talked about a new website and what happens with the old website? I don't think we have. So
No.
can we talk about that?
It seems like we just got a new website and that was going to be the, Larry, do you remember?
Mhm.
It was supposed to be the be all and end all.
So now it's looking like certain things aren't going to function as of this upcoming year. Can we just go through what's not going to function, what's wrong with it, what the new one would entail?
So when you all purchased that website a few years back, the technology that was used to write the programming for it, it's becoming extinct. So features that are included on our website will no longer function as of December 31st because that technology is going away.
Which features?
Planned
Things like
obsolescence.
Flash Player, the scripts that are HTML based, they will no longer work. So some of the jumps that we have from different pages to pages or to other websites, those were no longer working.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if he was given that information when we pursued this venture, but basically from a tech standpoint, I would look at having to update every 3 to 5 years.
Because it wasn't
Because
that long
that's how
ago, right? It was
fast
only
it's
about 2
moving.
years ago.
Yeah,
that-
because Hank was the one who
Yeah.
presented the.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
I was at that
Every 3 to
meeting.
5 years, we should
And it was supposed to be wonderful.
So every 3 to 5 years, we should be expecting to do $18,000.
Probably 4, considering that things continue to increase and unfortunately not decrease.
And will this new website still have capabilities of people paying online, and will it
Actually,
increase our?
It'll have better functionality
Okay,
and it'll make it more user friendly for the citizens.
okay.
We're hoping that it will integrate with our software, as it is now. If you wanted to pay your bill online, you can't pull up your bill, for example.
But I mean, I don't know, my expectations are different for a Raleigh than a Nashville.
Yeah.
You know, where I don't, somewhere, some municipalities have very minimal websites, but I know that once we went online with our payments, that made many people very, very happy. So I obviously want to keep online payments. Yes,
And I just want to clarify that the total cost is actually $35,000,
Mhm.
but they were willing to break
Right.
that over. So I wanted to make sure that I was clear
Yes.
about that amount, that it's broken down. So that 18 is for 1 year of rebuild, plus we still have to pay the $9,000 for the maintenance and support that we have to pay every year. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
clear. Yes, thank you. My next question is also in this old one, so I'm not sure if it's still there on page 82. In software and data support for 20,000, are these things that we already have? Are these new things? iCompass, Marsh,
Oh,
these
no.
are,
Those new.
these are all new. So this is the social media and the text message grabbing for retention purposes.
Our conference is the agenda software.
And can you just explain that to us?
So this will be able to guide the process a little bit better from start to finish. It'll actually give the manager more ability to hold the clerk accountable because he has a more hands-on, eyes-on approach to be able to see what we actually do. It allows so it would not just be me utilizing it, all the department heads and Randy would be able to essentially use the platform to submit their work for us to collaborate and creatively put this together. And it will be a process. It also does some things that we can't do right now because we just don't have the software. So for example, the last agenda packet you guys got for the regular meeting was ginormous. But I don't have the ability outside of going through and literally handwriting on each individual page number. It'd be far easier to do that. It also makes it easier. It will correlate with the website. So once it's done and it's published, it will automatically post to the website. It can automatically be sent to the media, to Sunshine List. You guys can see it and access it. It's very user friendly. So even for the public, say when it posts online, it gives you the ability to click on a hyperlink, keep your agenda, but also show you what's in that agenda so you can kind of follow through. But basically, it will, and I put it in my request, it will provide the town with a streamlined process, especially for the manager to review. It'll provide additional transparency to the public. And it also will help reduce costs. We spent an astronomical amount on paper, and council prefers it that way, but it'd be a whole lot easier if a department head could just view this online instead of me printing off all this extra paper that sometimes some things in the agenda packets don't really apply to them. You don't need all of that. But there is an enormous cost associated with the paper, the printing, my time spent printing, copying, assembling, the tabs. It's a very costly item, and this would help us in that department as well.
So that one's the first one.
Yep,
And how much is that one?
that one is $38.50.
$38.50. And is that a yearly fee, or is that a one-time and then it would just be a maintenance fee after that?
It is a yearly fee,
A yearly fee.
yes. And it is a web-based software, so just if that matters to anyone.
And the other two?
The other one, we got Smarsh. That is social media and text message retention. The town is responsible for retaining social media and text message records. This platform provides a searchable platform for you to be able to actually go in and search the record, making it more of a database and not just kind of catch all of saved records. It captures comments that are deleted, even if they are deleted, so we would have those. And then it also provides records that are legally compliant if we ever have to have anything that goes to court from both ends. So we do have 11 social media pages. The town, Mr. Rankin gave us permission to create a town Facebook page. Because we don't have one, but we have all these other pages that it's kind of backwards that we did it that way. So he's given us permission to do that, so that we can kind of take all the rest of those pages and own them, and then have them feed off of one another with people who can access it and post. Sorry. And then the Downtown Strong, they also wanted to create a social media outlet, so we would be increasing by another 2 social media accounts.
Okay, and how much does that one cost?
Okay, so it is, in total, it is 8836.35, but that is for both social media and text retention.
And is that a yearly fee too?
Now, some of that will reduce because there is a one-time cost associated with it. Let me see if I have my.
The literature on these. Here.
Yeah, it was. So with Smart, there is a setup fee of $500, so it reduced by $500, but then everything else would be an annual cost. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
So what's the grand total of all that? Okay, software and data support, okay, 20,065,
There's some more.
okay.
So the included in that also is the recorder for in here.
right.
That technology is also no longer going to be supported or maintenance. So
So we couldn't use it even if we wanted to, is what you're saying?
Sure.
Okay,
So that is an additional 447710. I'm sorry, I did exact number. And then, which is, that's something we already have. And then we also already have Unicode, which is $735. MCCI, which is another, the same thing, it's still Unicode. One's just for minutes and the other for ordinances, which is $705. And then $1,100 for ADS, which is the maintenance that supports the recorder that's in here. So the last 4 that were included in here, we already have, which is
okay.
about 4, 5, 6, another almost $8,000. So it's a hefty amount there for 44, 77, 10, 735, 705, and 1,100. But those things are things that we already currently have.
But these are recurring fees. And the new is just the iCompass, the Smarsh, and then an upgrade.
Yeah, and that upgrade, that 44, 77, 10 to be a one-time cost, I think you need another
Okay,
upgrade of your system.
Any other questions?
I've already got a computer. And we've already purchased the file cabinet, so that $6,000.
I like to hear that.
Okay, everybody's getting sort of lazy eyed. I think we met our breaking point. But yes, Sam, I would appreciate it so much if you would put that, just do a few pages, simplify it so I can understand it. I'd be so appreciative. And I thank you for your time today. I think it's been a good work session. We found out a lot of things and Yes, Louise, did you have something?
Software. I'd like a grand total of all the software.
New versus
Yeah, new.
what we have.
Mhm. And any maintenance fees, the whole 9 yards.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Bye.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
time.
Thank you for all of your work. I know.
Absolutely.
It's tough to sit here and
Until we meet again next Tuesday.
Last year we spent 53 minutes.
Anybody else?
Well, we don't have a planning, we do not